Welcome to News with a View, hosted by me, John A. Costa. This is a conservative-leaning podcast, but I do take facts into making my decisions. And believe me, if I think the Republicans are doing something wrong, I'm going to say it. Also, Democrats. And Democrats who've been giving me just unlimited room to comment and make my opinions. I take in mostly federal issues. I do take state issues in when they impact against federal law. I'm not a lawyer, just a guy with a microphone and a book to reference back to, the Constitution, which makes me a conservative Republican, not MAGA. I'm a Federalist. The wonderful thing is, Democrats can be Federalists too. That's what we have in common. All right, today is April 24th, 2026. This is episode 59 for the year. You can look back at my other episodes. They're all up there in the playlist, videos, and live. Anything live will not have any fonts or any text messages or things like that up there. And when I say text, I'm saying text, not people texting in while we're doing it. Though you could see it live, though I do have it turned off. It was too hard for me to go back and forth. Just me doing this, one-man band. All right, today it's going to be I'm going to try to keep this under 30 minutes. It's hard to do sometimes because I just love hearing myself. There's, of course, plenty in the news today. Excuse me, I just had coffee. It is 9:30 a.m., which is early for me to get started, but I just had to start early because of this nonsense. A lot of Democratic rhetoric coming from the Senate and coming from the House leadership over the DHS funding, and how terrible it is, and America is suffering, and no one likes, everyone hates ICE and Border Patrol. Why are we giving them money? All right. So Democrats make so many false comments and refuse to face the truth about their failures. And this is a failure of the Biden administration and the Obama administration and the Clinton administration. We're here because of them. The last 22 years basically has been 16 of those years have been Democrats. Call them as I see them, folks. Just go out and look for yourself. It's probably, it's probably the last 18 years. The 18 years of administration, 16 of them so far. Well, all right, I take that back. Not going to get into the numbers. I'm still too tired, but the Democrats have held the majority of the time in power over the last 20 years. So now they're trying to put a spin that Americans, they don't want borders, and they don't want ICE enforcement. This is what Schumer got up and said the other day on the Senate floor. And he speaks for all Americans. Do you feel that way? Do you feel that we should just have open borders and we should let anyone in and anyone vote and no laws on that? because I'm pretty certain Trump won on that argument. All right. And of course, we know what the agenda is for the progressive Democrats. They only want a few people. They don't want a law on the book. They just want to do what they want to do right now that fits their agenda. Democrats never mention that we have laws that Congress made about immigration and border protection on the books that past Democratic administrations just did not want to follow. And when they started to get called out on this, they created dreamers. They created parolees. There's no such thing in our law. There's no provision for that. Congress never voted on that. Never made it legislation. Never went to the Senate. Dreamers. Remember Obama? They're dreamers. And if you notice with the Democrats, everything is a dream. They hinge everything on a dream. Dreams are not real, folks. You know what a dream is? Just an unfiltered part of the brain working. There's very little rhyme or reason to it. That's why you can fly in dreams and you walk through walls and you don't die in dreams because it's not real. What is real is vision. Vision drives the imagination. Vision is what makes things happen, not a dream. It isn't like, in Back to the Future where he had a dream. He hit his head and all of a sudden this magical formula came into his head. The flux capacitor. No, that didn't happen. That's fake. Dreams are not real. What is real are laws that need to be followed. Representative and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries out of New York speaks of people moving to the Democratic Party. He got up on a speech the other day and said, more people are moving to the Democratic Party. And while I'm sure that people do move to the Democratic Party, what he does not mention is the fact that Democrats are moving away from their party at even a greater pace than those jumping in. How can you say this, John? Well, President Trump won in 2024. And there's more Democrats than there are Republicans, according to the Democrats, according to registrations. So, that must mean that Democrats are voting for Republicans. And the honest way to see how the temperature is out there is you look at how much money they're collecting in donations. A lot of big donators are saying, nah, not this time, and certainly not Harris, and certainly not that guy. We're sitting back and waiting. And the longer the wait is for money is the less these people get their word out. You have Pritzker in Illinois who wants to run for president. He has dreams of that. You have Shapiro. You have Newsom. You have Harris. All sitting back waiting for their turn. And or their turn again in the case of Harris. But there's no money coming in to any great extent. And honestly, the people that get the most amount, that statistically, is Bernie Sanders, AOC. They go out there to the colleges and they collect money, and, dimes, nickels, quarters, dollars add up fast. And they don't need a political action committee. They don't need industrial sponsors. They don't need to do that. And in that manner, I do give them a lot of respect. Don't like their politics. And AOC's neighborhood, where she represents, makes Fallujah look good. But I do like basically how they sometimes get their money. They go out there and they ask. They take the hat and they pass it around. Well, I could respect that. Senator Cory Booker stated in a speech that people must take to the streets as foot soldiers to protect democracy, citing darkness and the need to redeem, there it is again, the dream of America. All right? Again, to protect democracy, which we don't have here. We have a democratic republic, but you don't have a true democracy. And I keep saying true democracy is mob rule. When he's saying protect democracy, isn't that following the law? Right? If you don't follow the law, you have anarchy. But he's saying we have to go out there and fight the law. Undocumented people in this country are here criminally under the Civil Code. Documented people here who break our laws are criminals under our criminal law and are subject to all the rights thereof, but deportation is one of them. And boy, the Democrats don't like that at all. The Democrats do not like following the laws, following the rules that are on the books. We see Senator Schumer speak on the Senate floor and announce that he speaks for every American in their hate of ICE and border protection. Senator Schumer, you don't speak for me. And you don't speak for every American. And you don't speak for every Democrat. And you don't speak for every person in the state of New York when it comes to hate. And he's getting called out on this in a big-time way. And this is the rhetoric of the left. This is the rhetoric of the left. Hate. We need soldiers on the ground. We need to fight for democracy. Well, we have democratic rights under the Republic right here that you're not enforcing. What fight? So you want to fight for not enforcing our laws? Is that what you want? Senator Booker of New Jersey, who is trying to run, he's going to try to run for president, but he wants the VP spot. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Senator Patty Murphy speaks of the wasted money, billions, on ICE and border protection. Why are we even spending that money? Americans need money. They need programs. They need help. Colorado Rep. Brittany Peterson has cited data alleging that 70% of the people in ICE detention have no criminal conviction, and over 90% are either non-criminals or non-violent offenders. I don't know how she does math, but it kind of doesn't work out. And let's say 70% are not, no criminal convictions. 70% don't have criminal convictions. Well, 30% do. And they're now off the street. And of the other remaining people, they are criminals under civil law. They're undocumented. They're not here on any status that's being disputed. There's not. We know who they are. They show up on the list. That's good. You're registered with immigration. At least we know who you are. And now we know where you live, because before that we had no idea where you lived. So these are the people that, under the statuses and things, have a shot of getting representation and staying. We do not have to provide it under civil. Criminal, yeah, they get a lawyer. Arguing that ICE is not acting in accordance with its stated focus on high-risk individuals. Now, she's a Colorado rep. She's not a senator. I take that back. Representative Brittany Peterson. When a police officer pulls someone over and they find out that the driver is a criminal and they arrest them, then they can ask the driver who they are, and, oh, look, they're a criminal too. Now, I was pulling over this guy because his motor vehicle plate and everything said, hey, we got a warrant out on this guy. That doesn't mean they let the other guy go, because we weren't looking for you, but we found you. Yeah, sucks to be you, but we found you. And she's saying that's not right. That shouldn't be, right? That's not what they said they were going to do. No, ICE's job is to get these people off the street. That's their job. Border protection was meant to stop them from getting onto our streets. But because the Democrats allowed it for 20 years, we got a lot of people here, 30 million at a minimum count, And she failed to say that any undocumented person, no matter if a criminal under our legal system or a criminal under our civil statutes, which they are the people being sent to detention facilities. A criminal, period. Her math does not work. And these are the people that are getting on the news and shaking their fists and doing this. Adam Schiff. How is funding DHS? How is that supposed to help your life? This is Adam Schiff, a lawyer, a senator from California, was in Congress. Does Schiff even understand anything about victims of crimes committed by illegals and the cost of such to every taxpayer, just on a monetary thing? Forget about emotional. but just what the illegals are costing us. And the money that we're sending that we need to send because they didn't do their job. And does he understand the cost to every taxpayer, not to mention the cost of medical, housing, food, education, being funded by government, while citizens actually get nothing? And he's saying, well, yeah, that's because we shouldn't give it to DHS. We should just give it to everyone and make the problem worse. The logic of the Democrats are unbelievable. Unbelievable. Unreasonable. No common sense. Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut states Americans are suffering, and he's introducing legislation. And I asked, why, Chris? I'll tell you why. Because billions have to be spent to enforce laws your party refused to support. That's why. That's why you have people suffering that should not be suffering. I agree with you, Chris. I agree with you. Our citizens should not be suffering because you didn't do your job. You should be fired or removed from office or not elected again. And the money being spent is to fix a problem you created. So, if people that really need this health care, and they are people that need that, EBT, they need these things, aren't getting it because the money is being diverted to get criminals and people that should not be here off the street and back to wherever they came from. And here's what the Republican reply should be. Just like I said, Republicans should point out at every turn, America would not be spending billions of dollars on ICE, billions of dollars on border security, billions of dollars on jails and detention centers if the Clinton, Obama, Biden administration had enforced our border policies and President Trump, I'll get back to you in a minute. I know you watch the show. Those savings could be used for health care, EBT, education, housing, and daycare programs, not to mention more. But now must be used to deport criminals, fund police, and protect citizens because the Democrats failed to follow our laws. Our foundation is our laws. So if you have a bad foundation, the house is going to suffer. And this is what is happening because we have a good foundation. You allowed it to deteriorate. And now we're fixing that foundation so the house stays up. This should be pointed out by every Republican, and every moderate Democrat should be hanging their head and looking and going, yeah, I see what they're doing. I want to be a good Democrat. I want to be a good party member. But you know what? Sometimes you have to stop being a good party member and be a citizen and call these people out. And I have called out Trump on stuff that he has done or I had wanted to do, and I go, you can't do it. The book says no. Now, if you want to challenge the book to do it, go ahead. You can do that. And if the Democrats want to challenge the president about his use of using the book, you have at it too. It is allowed. And that's why our founders, that's why the people that made the book put all that in there. Secretary of DHS, or Acting Secretary Mullins, called out Schumer on Fox News interview the other day a lying scumbag. After Schumer's ranting on the Senate floor, President Trump said Schumer must apologize for his comments. And the Democrats fail to realize, or they just choose not to, I don't know yet, the fact that Republicans won on crime and immigration failures of the Biden administration. Now, the Democrats are going to lose because of the actions of the Democrats in the House of Representatives. Who are supporting those Biden policies of not following our laws. How do you think that's going to work out, fellas? Now, of course, some blue states will always vote blue. They don't care. They just vote blue. Some states are going to vote red because they don't care. They just vote red. But there's going to be a lot of people this November going in there who are Democrats going, can't support this. Can't support this. The Democrats are not listening to what people have voted for, want, and still want today and in November. And I said yesterday, my little thing here is to point people in the right direction. I have no problem with the Democratic Party. I have no problem with the Republican Party. But I do have problems when I see either party going off the rails or approaching the rails. Before you hit the rails, hey, turn. And the Republicans saw that in themselves and looked at themselves and go, why have we lost? Why has this happened? And let's figure this out. And they did. They did figure it out. And they hit a chord with Americans enough to win the Senate, to win the House of Representatives, and to win the White House. With a president that they said would be in jail, who they tried to railroad into jail. And the American people said, nope, we see what you're doing. Our eyes are still open, folks. And I'm telling the Democrats, I'm telling the rank and file Democrats, you must contact your leadership and tell them, hey, stop what you're doing. You're not going to win. And we're not saying surrender to the Republicans, but I think that if you would work with the Republicans, you might get some things that you want. Not everything. And the Republicans will say, hey, see, the Democrats came, we listened, we're reasonable people. But you won't do that. You're too far gone. You're Fettermans that are there, and there are people that are good Democrats that look at common sense values. And then you have other, you have Republicans that, just go so far to the right that they're left. I get that. I don't support that. I'm not looking for someone, that dances on both sides. But I'm looking for someone that holds the majority of my values that align to the Constitution. And those are who I vote for. And I have voted for Democrats that have done that. And I have voted for Republicans that have done that. And I make no apologies for any of that. So, what we're seeing today are Democratic fake poll numbers. We are seeing the fraud in Minnesota, now California, the fraud cases against congressional Democrats, an investigation of House members like Omar over immigration statements made and reports filed by her that have been deemed false. Now, a resigned California representative Sewell accused of sexual misconduct, and the Democrats who knew of these allegations but never said anything. Now, I won't say that those Democrats, because just because you hear something, you don't run the, teacher. But you got to start looking, and enough people are saying it and corroborating it, and people did go to Nancy Pelosi and said, "Hey, you might want to rein this guy in, or if not, rein him in. You keep him at a far enough distance from you. Whereas when he falls, just make sure he's the one and the only one that has to fall on the sword, no one else." But they didn't do that. They backed this guy, and now this guy's gone. And you have a Republican, Representative Gonzalez, who had to leave office because he broke ethic violations of having a relationship with a staff member. Hey, rules, baby, rules. You live and die by them. We see that New York State Attorney General Letitia James alleged to have lied and misrepresented facts numerous times on applications for loans. Her case against Citizen Trump taken down piece by piece as a political prosecution. We have seen the case in Georgia, Fani Willis, fall apart because of wrongdoing on the part of the prosecution. So, we are seeing every step of the way, all the way, that the Democrats are in really big trouble here on credibility. We see a president who says we're not going to take any shit from Iran anymore. Not taking the threats, and we're not doing that. We're not going to take the threats, and it should be implied back to North Korea. We're just not going to take those threats. And we might not attack North Korea, but we will so contain them that they will have to spend every dime that they have on a military that, if they even thought about using it, would be quicker gone than the Iranians. And we're getting better at stopping North Korea, and they're stealing. If they can't get it one way, they go and they steal bitcoins and they steal other things. We know what they're doing. And we're on top of that. And, I don't doubt for a minute that if the United States wanted to push a button and empty every one of their bank accounts out, that button is pushed and their accounts are empty and you got nothing. But do you want to do that? And again, I've said this from a military standpoint, the worst enemy that you could ever face is an enemy that no longer has anything to lose. We can only, by fighting harder and causing more casualties on the other side, we can only get better terms. So you want to be careful with that. And again, speaking now about Iran, when you decapitate everyone, who are you going to deal with? You have to keep people there that have a pulse, that have something to the people, something to their proxies. Because if you wipe out all the links to the proxies, then the proxies are freewheeling, and, can do what they want until, you put the hammer down on them really hard. So Iran has lost control. But they lost control because we decimated them. And Israel decimated them. So you don't know who you're really dealing with. Today I deal with that guy, and then the, Revolutionary Guard eliminates that guy or pushes that guy and go, "You're not talking for us." So you don't know who you're talking with over there to make these deals. And I'm sure there's a lot of backwater stuff. Israel didn't know all this stuff and was able to do what they did by guesswork. They got feet on the ground. They got eyes on the ground. And we don't. We might have some assets there, but not like Israel. So we're kind of dependent on Israel for a lot of our real intel, not satellite imagery. We can figure all that stuff out ourselves. But, what's going through their minds? Who are you talking to directly? And what do they think? So, and I like that when Trump said, "Hey, I'm not going to be pushed on Iran. You're not making me make decisions, because you're forcing me to make it," meaning the media, the press, and some other people. Not doing it. I got a plan, and these are the steps in the plan. So, good for you, President Trump. Good for you. Again, my program is not to beat up the Democrats. And I will beat up the Republicans if they need to be beat up. But right now they do not. They got a pretty good idea of what needs to get done. Thank goodness for that. All right, everyone. I want everyone to be safe. Have a good weekend. Unless there's something so earth-shattering, I'm not going to do weekend shows. I did pretty good shows this week, so I'm pretty happy. At least for me. I promise some changes that are coming, and a little bit more reaching out on other streams. So I'm working on that. I got a lot of things going on around me, but things now are starting to calm down a little bit. I'm actually feeling somewhat better. So, and not as concerned as I was after, running around to doctors and stuff. So I'm not as concerned. But there is some concern. But it's not, crazy concerns. Yeah. Yeah, doctor, I don't need you to tell me that I'm fat. But, all right. Please give to a charity. If you can give to a charity, that's a wonderful thing. Just make sure it's an honest charity, and it's charity of your choice. I don't want to see anyone become a victim in the attempt to help victims. If you're uncomfortable about doing a charity, please think about giving to a food bank. They need help, and they need monetary help too, so they can address a problem. Sunday, the 26th, at Socrates Station in Socrates, South Carolina, there will be a fundraiser going on from 12 noon to 4 p.m. It's a spaghetti dinner, $10 donations. There'll be prizes and raffles. And everyone that is listening, if you're in the Myrtle Beach area, Socrates Station, $10 a spaghetti and meatball dinner. You can't go wrong. There'll be a cash bar, and this is for charity, and this is for a group known as Under the Wings of an Angel that go out and help anyone. They get, a neighbor, they get someone who calls and go, hey, this person's in bad shape, and they can't, their electric was turned off, hey, they need food, their kids are sick, this is that. And they go in there, they assess it, and then if available, and they'll help them. And, they don't go there every month, but they help them in that moment in time. And it's a really good organization. At the holidays, at Christmas time, in Socrates Station, it's a restaurant, bar, and grill. They do so much for all the charities in the area. I can't believe what they do. It is probably one of the most rewarding things that I see, where they actually help the community that they're in. And not just, once a year or anything like that. I mean, Easter, 4th of July, Veterans Day, Memorial Day, Under the Wings of the Angels, children, the Handicap Olympics, mentally developed, deficient groups that need help. It is an amazing, amazing staff of people there at Socrates Station. And they're off the 707 in Socrates, which is between Murrells Inlet, South Carolina, and Myrtle Beach. Great place, great food. They're open every day but Sundays. And it's a fun place to go. And you'll see me sitting next to a pretty blonde. All right. With that, please say a prayer. Prayer does work no matter what a Democrat might tell you. And everyone have a safe weekend. Be safe. Hug those people next to you. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye as I fade to